Sports are an interesting thing, aren't they? I've seen many plays in hockey that if that play happened off the field in just regular everyday life, that person is going to be getting like an assault charge. And the ones that resulted in injuries, they're probably going to get 10 years in prison, 5 to 10 years in prison. Like, there's some real bad things that have happened in hockey. Absolutely. People attacking people with their hockey sticks, just intent to injure. Some real bad stuff. Guys with broken vertebrae on their necks, the Todd Bertuzzi incident, and that actually did result in criminal charges. So let's check this out, though. The worst AFL suspensions ever. Let's see. It is an interesting thing about sports, though, right? That, like, in hockey, guys can fist fight. They're fist fighting on the ice. Yeah, it's crazy. Let's just get into this.
Alistair Lynch was involved in a violent incident during the 2004 Grand Final against Port Adelaide. Brisbane were aiming for their 4th consecutive premiership that year, but did not succeed. Lynch would engage in a physical altercation with Darryl Wakelin during the first quarter of the game, and punches were thrown. As a result of the melee, Lynch would receive a 10-game ban as a result of the incident. Although he
only one of them, because like, are they just blaming the guy that instigated it? Because they were both throwing haymakers.
Melee, Lynch would receive a 10-game ban as a result of the incident. Although he retired immediately following the match,
the red
and therefore
player is the instigator. Seems like
he would later express regret for his actions. In 2017, Tom Bugg was caught for a behind-the-play incident where he struck Callum Mills in the
yeah, I've seen this one. This was sneaky and real bad.
Chin with a left fist. What was interesting about this was that the strike was fairly unprovoked, as Mills was not doing anything untoward against Bugg. As a result of this, Bugg was dealt a 6-week suspension and left embarrassed and remorseful for what he had done. During a home and away game between St Kilda and Geelong in 2010, Stephen Baker of St Kilda and Steve Johnson of Geelong had a heated exchange. Baker was given the task of tagging Johnson. The tussle between the two started when Johnson elbowed Baker in the face, after Baker had been provoking him throughout the game. In response, Baker struck Johnson multiple times, including hitting his injured hand. Baker eventually pleaded guilty to several charges, resulting in a 9-game suspension.
Wait, when he says pleaded guilty to the charges, is he talking about criminal charges, or is that how they refer to it within the sport? Because he's saying it's resulting in a 9-game suspension. I thought he was going to say a 9-month sentence.
Johnson was also suspended for 3 games due to his involvement in the incident. Baker was also involved in an incident during a match held at the then-named Telstra Dome. He was charged with rough conduct and received a 7-match ban. As a result of Baker's actions, Jeff Farmer,
AFL Tribunal. Stephen Baker was tonight suspended for 7 matches by the AFL Tribunal for engaging in rough conduct against Docker Jeff Farmer
of the Dockers suffered a broken nose, lacerated lip, and a concussion. However, there was no visual evidence of the incident. The tribunal relied on statements from other players and club officials to make their decision. In addition to the severity of the offence, Baker's prior record and carry-over points from previous incidents were also factors contributing to the extended length of his suspension. Speaking of Jeff Farmer, he also was a notorious offender and had faced suspensions 10 times prior. While playing for the Dockers in a pre-season game, Farmer would eye gouge North Melbourne's Daniel Pratt. He was offered 4 games, but North argued the charge, saying that he was pushing Pratt away.
Okay, I can't see anything really in this video.
This didn't bode well with the tribunal, and Farmer was dealt a 6-week ban. The suspension of Greg Williams following a round 1 match between Carlton and Essendon is considered one of the most controversial in AFL history. During a heated argument between Essendon's Sean Denham and several Carlton players, Williams gave a slight push to umpire Andrew Coates, who was trying to hold him back while he was talking back at Denham. Even though the push was minor, Williams was suspended for 9 matches. Carlton contested the ban in court, and it was ultimately dismissed. However, the AFL appealed the decision, and the suspension was reinstated. Williams was set to begin serving his suspension in round 17 of 1997, but he retired before that could even happen. Toby Greene.
We challenged it in court. Is that like because he's losing salary? Is that how he's able to challenge it? Or like a more of a employer versus employee sort of thing.
Would suffer a similar fate for a minor brush with field umpire Matt Stevick. The GWS captain was dealt a 6-week suspension for making contact with the umpire. Greene stood by the suspension later, stating he was in the wrong and shouldn't have been too close to umpire Stevick. Andrew Gaff, on the other hand, who had never been suspended, fined, or reprimanded
Seen this one as well. He got punched in the chops, right?
during his career, unfortunately had a serious lapse in judgment. He was having a strong season in 2018 and was even considered a potential Brownlow medal favourite. But during a match against Fremantle, Gaff delivered a massive hit to Andrew Brayshaw, which resulted in both players' seasons coming to an end. Gaff received an 8-game suspension.
Why? And I'm sure a lot of these players do have a history of indecent acts, violent acts on the field, but a lot of the times when you do something like this, you kind of realize right after and you start regretting it immediately. It's in the moment, it's in the heat of the moment, and it's kind of an emotional outburst. But those are things that you have to keep a handle of in professional sports.
While Brayshaw suffered a broken jaw and had 3 lower teeth displaced. Brayshaw was unable to consume solid food for a month.
Like a broken jaw. They got some serious criminal charges
following this incident, which was undoubtedly painful. Gaff, on the other hand, would miss the 2018 Grand Final, in which his team would win, perhaps karmic justice for his deplorable actions. 2 years earlier, Gaff found himself on the other end of a hit from Tom Jonas of Port Adelaide, who would come to contact with Gaff, who was attempting a courageous mark.
Looks like his neck might have got hurt there.
However, Jonas was given 6 weeks as his hit would knock out Gaff. Jonas made no attempt at the ball, and rather than brace Gaff's contact, he would raise his elbow, putting the West Coast mid in extreme danger. One of the most well-known events in the past 10 years is undoubtedly Barry Hall's brutal left
Barry Hall, even I know this guy's name.
hook, which resulted in a 7-game suspension for the Sydney Swans player, and was widely broadcasted worldwide. Despite his attempts to distance himself from the incident, Hall has struggled to shed his...
Like, really, man? You're going to give it the old... What did I do?
...reputation as a troublemaker, and for many fans of the AFL, this hit is his most significant memory. Similarly to Lynch, he has expressed remorse and his actions and acknowledgement of the hit as one of the biggest regrets in football. Brent Staker, who sustained the hit from Hall, was unable to continue playing in that game and is also primarily remembered for the incident. Fred Rutley was a player for North Melbourne from 1922 to 1930. In round 12 of the 1925 season, Rutley would start an all-in brawl with the Geelong Football Club. He was found guilty of kicking a player twice, striking 3 different players, and being involved in a melee. He pleaded guilty but refused to give evidence, and as a result was banned for life. However, he would return after 89 matches in 1930, which made his suspension the longest suspension for an
89 matches
in VFL or AFL history. Phil Carman was a player for Essendon in 1980. He was involved in a heated back and forth with umpires in a game against St Kilda after he was caught striking a player from the opposing side. Boundary umpire Graham Carberry would come face to face with Carman to possibly de-escalate the situation. The two exchanged heated words, and Carman would flick his head forward, making contact with Carberry's nose. As a result, Carman would be handed a 20-match ban, which only backed up the golden rule of never touching the umpires. In 2012, Carman clarified that he believed the punishment was warranted. And finally, possibly the worst on-field incident occurred in a reserves game in 1985. Even though it isn't an official AFL or VFL suspension, it is too shocking not to include. Collingwood forward John Burke.
Did somebody bite somebody? Those have been some of the worst ones in hockey, like guys biting, pulling hair, stepping on guys with skates, stuff like that.
Burke was being reported by the field umpire. Anger got the best of him when he shoved the umpire to the ground, the cardinal sin. He was dragged off the field, and while he was running off, he ran after a spectator and dropped him as well. He would be dealt a 10-year penalty, which was commuted down to 6 years. But Burke would never play at the highest level ever again. He was 22 when the incident occurred, and perhaps this...
What a moron.
would go down as one of the most shocking incidents in football history.
You're just a bully, mate. All right. Yeah, craziness. Yeah, this is some more serious stuff and guys just doing really, really stupid shit. And it seems like professional sports, especially skilled professional sports, have been slowly but surely evolving and trying to protect players, especially the skilled players, skilled sports. You don't want to be losing guys to concussions, to serious injuries, and losing these skilled, charismatic, and just lightning fast, skilled players, exciting players. You don't want to be losing those guys to, while it is an exciting part of sport, at least physical sports, like the contact sports, you need to make it so guys are protected. And in players that are doing cheap shots like this, got to throw the book at them, man. Got to throw the book at them. It's the way it is. All right, later.